She stopped to help a poor old man, not knowing he was a billionaire. Everyone walked past the old man lying by the road until a barefoot girl with nothing to her name knelt beside him, unaware she had just saved a billionaire's life and changed her own. Hello, family. Welcome to Love and Luxuries. Please subscribe and leave a comment for us. It means the world to us. Also, share this video to your friends and loved ones and turn on post notifications so you don't miss future videos from us. Thank you as you do so. It was a hot afternoon in Lagos. The sun burned bright above the crowded streets of Surulere. Cars honked endlessly. Traders shouted prices. Buses pushed through traffic as people hurried past, chasing their own worries. By the roadside, an old man walked slowly, leaning on a wooden stick. His shirt was dusty, his shoes thin from long walks. No one would have guessed that this tired-looking man was Mr. Cole, one of the wealthiest men in the city. That day, he dressed simply, just another face in the crowd. But as he moved closer to the bus stop, a sharp pain gripped his chest. He gasped, clutched his heart, and collapsed near the gutter. People saw him fall, but no one stopped. A keke driver slowed down, looked, then drove away. A woman selling oranges said, "Ah, Lagos is not safe, he might be pretending," and pushed her tray aside. Others walked past like nothing happened. Minutes turned into an hour. The old man lay weak, watching people's feet pass him by. Then came Grace. She was only 23, walking home in worn slippers with a small nylon bag in her hand, bread and sardines for her two little brothers waiting at home in Ajagunle. Sweat ran down her face, but she didn't stop until she saw him, an old man lying by the gutter, his lips dry, his fingers trembling. Grace paused. What if he's dangerous? She thought, but her heart wouldn't let her walk away. She dropped her bag, knelt beside him, and said softly, "Sir, can you hear me?" He tried to speak, but only a weak sound came out. Grace quickly opened her water bottle and helped him drink, then took off her wrapper to shield him from the sun. "Please, somebody help me! This man is sick!" she cried. No one moved. Finally, a taxi driver stopped. "Where should we go?" he asked. "Nearest hospital," she said, helping the old man into the car. "Please hurry." The taxi sped through traffic, honking as it went. Grace sat beside him, holding his hand tightly. His breathing was weak, his eyes half open. "Don't worry, sir," she whispered. "He'll be fine." At a small clinic, nurses rushed out with a stretcher. Grace followed them inside. After a few minutes, a doctor came out and said, "He'll be okay. He just needs rest. You brought him in at the right time." "What is your relationship to him?" the doctor asked. Grace looked down. "I don't know him, sir. He just collapsed on the road. Everyone walked past." The doctor smiled softly. "You helped a stranger. The world needs more people like you." Grace sat on a bench in the hallway. Her stomach growled. She hadn't eaten all day, but she didn't leave. Hours later, the old man opened his eyes and saw her still sitting there, tired, but waiting. "You stayed?" he asked weakly. "Yes, sir," she said, smiling faintly. "You fainted on the road. I couldn't just leave you." He looked at her for a long moment. Her face was gentle, her eyes kind. "What's your name, my dear?" "Grace," she said softly. "I live in Ajagunle with my brothers." "Thank you, Grace," the man whispered. "You have a good heart." "Rest now," she said. "You'll be fine." That evening, she whispered to the nurse, "Please take care of him. I'll come back tomorrow." Then she walked home, tired and hungry, but with a light heart. She didn't know that the man she helped wasn't a poor stranger at all, but a billionaire who would soon change her life forever. The hospital was quiet that evening. Mr. Cole lay in bed, breathing evenly. The air smelled of disinfectant. He was resting when the door opened suddenly. A young man in a crisp white shirt walked in, tall, neat, and serious. "Dad, are you okay?" he asked, rushing to his side. Mr. Cole smiled faintly. "Daniel, you came." "Of course I did," Daniel said, holding his father's hand. "You scared everyone. What happened?" "Just a little weakness," Mr. Cole said calmly. "Nothing too serious." Daniel turned to the doctor. "Tell me the truth. Doctor, is he okay?" The doctor nodded. "He's stable now. You should thank the young woman who brought him in. Without her, it might have been worse." Daniel frowned. A young woman? Yes, the doctor said. She said her name is Grace. Daniel looked curious. Grace? His father smiled gently, remembering her. Find her, my son. She's special. Daniel chuckled. You just met her once, Dad. Sometimes once is enough to recognize a pure heart. Mr. Cole replied softly. That night, Daniel sat beside his father. But his mind kept wandering to the mysterious girl named Grace, the girl who had stopped when everyone else walked away. The next afternoon, the sun shone bright again over Surulere. Grace walked carefully down the dusty road, holding a small food flask in her hands. Inside was rice and stew, simple, but made with care. Her old slippers slapped the ground as she hurried toward the clinic. When she reached the room, she saw Mr. Cole sitting up on the hospital bed. Good afternoon, sir, she said softly, smiling. I brought you some food. Mr. Cole's eyes lit up. Ah, Grace, you came back. Before she could reply, she noticed someone else in the room, a young man standing by the window, typing on his phone. When he turned around, their eyes met. Grace froze for a second. The man looked neat, confident, and calm. You must be Grace, he said with a warm smile. I'm Daniel, Mr. Cole's son. My father told me about you. Grace nodded politely. Good afternoon, sir. Daniel smiled. You saved his life. Thank you. Most people would have walked away. Grace looked down shyly. Anyone could have helped. I just did what I thought was right. Mr. Cole chuckled softly. You see, Daniel? That's what I told you. Her heart is rare. Grace opened the food flask and helped the old man eat slowly. Daniel stood aside, watching quietly. Her hands were gentle, her voice soft, her patience endless. Something about her felt real. When she finished, she wiped Mr. Cole's hands carefully and smiled. You must rest now, sir, she said. You'll get better soon. Wait, Mr. Cole said, reaching for her hand. You've done more than I can ever repay. Grace shook her head quickly. Please don't say that, sir. I'm just happy you're well. Mr. Cole smiled kindly. Still, I want to thank you properly. Please write down your address for me. Grace hesitated. Sir, my place is not nice. It's small, in Aragunle. He smiled. Good hearts can live anywhere, my dear. Grace tore a small piece of paper from her bag and wrote her name and directions. Here you go, sir. Thank you, Grace, he said softly. She turned to Daniel and nodded politely. Goodbye, sir. Daniel smiled faintly. Goodbye, Grace. As she left, Daniel watched her walk out the door, her steps light, her head high. Something stirred quietly in his heart, a feeling he couldn't name. When the room fell silent again, Mr. Cole looked at his son and smiled knowingly. What do you think of her? He asked. Daniel chuckled. She seems kind, Dad, but she's just a stranger who helped. Mr. Cole smiled faintly. Kindness from a stranger is rarer than gold, my son. You've met so many people, but none have touched your heart. Maybe this one will. Daniel sighed. Please don't start matchmaking again. Mr. Cole raised his hand. No words. Just trust me. Destiny hides in simple places even by the roadside. Daniel rolled his eyes slightly, but his heart wasn't at peace. That night, when he tried to sleep, he kept seeing Grace's gentle face and hearing her quiet voice. He smiled to himself, wondering why a stranger's kindness could feel so unforgettable. 3 days passed since Grace last saw the old man at the hospital. Life in Ajugunle went on as usual, noisy, crowded, and full of struggle. The air smelled of fish, dust, and sweat. Children ran around with laughter. Radios played from small shops. Grace sat by her wooden table, sewing a torn school uniform for a neighbor's child. Her 2 younger brothers, Ben and Toby, played nearby with empty tins, pretending they were cars. She sighed softly. There wasn't much food left for dinner, but she was thankful that the old man she helped was safe and strong now. She didn't know that, at that very moment, Mr. Cole was thinking about her too. Far away in Ikoyi, inside a large mansion with shining marble floors and tall windows, Mr. Cole sat on his favorite armchair. His son, Daniel, stood beside him. Are you sure about this, Dad? Daniel asked. She doesn't know who you really are. Mr. Cole smiled gently. That's the beauty of it, son. I want to see her again, to thank her the right way. Daniel shook his head with a small laugh. You're unbelievable. Come with me, Mr. Cole said, picking up his walking stick. You'll understand soon. That morning, 3 black SUVs rolled out of the mansion's gate. The sight alone made people turn their heads as they drove through the busy streets. When the cars reached Ajagunle, children ran after them, shouting, "Big man done come, oh! See fine motor!" Grace heard the noise from her small window. She frowned, confused. "What's happening outside?" she asked a neighbor. "I don't know," the woman replied. "But they're stopping near your house." "Mine." Grace froze. Then she heard car doors open. When she stepped outside, her heart almost stopped. The old man she helped, the same man who had looked poor and weak by the roadside, now stood tall and confident in a fine white native outfit, shiny shoes on his feet, and several guards behind him. "Sir," Grace whispered in shock. "Is it really you?" Mr. Cole smiled warmly. "Yes, my dear, it's me. I came to see the young woman who saved my life." The whole neighborhood stared. Some people gasped. Others whispered, "That poor girl. She helped a rich man?" Grace hurried forward, feeling shy and confused. "You didn't have to come all the way here, sir." Mr. Cole chuckled softly. "Oh, but I wanted to. You helped me when no one else would. I can't forget that." He looked around the narrow street, then turned back to her. "Please, will you do me a favor?" Grace blinked. "A favor? What kind?" "Join me for lunch," he said kindly. "My cook makes jollof rice and plantain that could win a prize." Grace's eyes widened. "Lunch? In your house?" Mr. Cole smiled. "Yes. You've helped me once. Now it's my turn to feed you." She hesitated. "Sir, my clothes, they're not good enough." "You are perfect just as you are," Mr. Cole said gently. He signaled to his driver, who opened the car door. "Come, my dear." Grace looked at her brothers, who stood behind her with wide, excited eyes. She smiled weakly at them. "I'll be back soon, okay?" They nodded quickly. "Bye, sister," Toby shouted. "Bring us meat." Grace laughed nervously and got into the car. As the cars drove away, the neighbors whispered in amazement, watching until the sound of engines faded. The ride felt unreal. The seats were soft, the air cool, the smell clean. Grace looked out the window at the streets flashing by. She had never sat in a car like this before. Soon, the cars entered Ikoyi. The streets were wide, calm, and quiet. Grace's eyes grew wide. She had only seen this part of Lagos in magazines. When they stopped, the driver came around and opened her door. In front of her stood a huge white mansion with golden doors, flower gardens, and fountains that sparkled under the sun. "Welcome to my home," Mr. Cole said with a kind smile. "Please feel comfortable." Grace could hardly speak. The floor was so shiny she could see her reflection in it. 2 maids came to greet her politely. "Take her to the dining room," Mr. Cole said. "And please, bring her something to drink." Grace followed slowly, her heart racing. The dining table was long and beautiful, filled with plates of jollof rice, grilled chicken, fried plantain, and fruit juice. She stood still until Mr. Cole smiled at her. "Please, my dear," he said. "Eat freely. You are my special guest." Grace sat down slowly. "Sir, I've never eaten in a place like this before." Mr. Cole laughed softly. "And I've never been helped by someone so selfless. Life is full of surprises, isn't it?" Grace smiled shyly. "Yes, sir." Just then, footsteps sounded behind them. Grace turned, and her heart skipped. It was Daniel, the young man from the hospital. "Father?" Daniel said as he walked in. "You didn't tell me we had a guest." Mr. Cole grinned. "Ah, Daniel. Meet the young woman who saved my life. It is normal." Daniel looked surprised. "Grace?" Grace stood up quickly. "Good afternoon, sir." Daniel smiled. "I didn't expect to see you here." "I didn't expect to be here either," Grace said, laughing nervously. "Your father invited me for lunch." Daniel sat down opposite her. "Well," he said gently, "you deserve much more than lunch." Grace blushed and looked down. "Please don't say that. I only did what anyone should do." Mr. Cole smiled. watching the two of them quietly. He could see something gentle in Daniel's eyes and something shy in Grace's. As they ate together, Grace began to relax. Mr. Cole asked her about her family, her work, and her dreams. "I just want to open a small sewing shop," Grace said, "so I can make clothes and take care of my brothers." Daniel listened quietly. He was used to women talking about parties, cars, and fancy things, but this girl spoke only of work and family. There was something refreshing about her honesty. After the meal, Mr. Cole said, "Grace, would you like to see the garden?" Grace nodded happily, and they walked outside. The garden was full of flowers, butterflies, and fountains. Grace stopped beside a tall tree and whispered, "This place feels like another world." Mr. Cole smiled. "Maybe one day the two worlds, yours and mine, will meet for good." Grace didn't quite understand what he meant, but she smiled anyway. Her heart felt warm and a little scared. She didn't know this visit was only the beginning of something much bigger than she could imagine. That evening, as the car drove Grace back home, she couldn't stop smiling. Everything felt like a dream. The sparkling mansion, the laughter at lunch, the gentle voice of Daniel. For the first time in a long while, her heart felt light. When she reached her small house, Ben and Toby ran out to hug her. "Sister, did you eat meat?" Toby asked excitedly. Grace laughed. "Yes, and I even brought some for you both." They sat together, eating happily. But even while she smiled, Grace's thoughts kept drifting back to Daniel, his calm eyes, his quiet voice, and how he had looked at her like she mattered. The next morning, in the Cole mansion, Daniel stood by his balcony. The city stretched below him, cars, lights, and endless noise. But his thoughts were far away, somewhere in a little corner of Ajegunle. He couldn't forget the girl with the soft eyes who had saved his father. "Thinking about her again?" His father's voice came from behind. Daniel turned, smiling faintly. "Maybe." Mr. Cole laughed softly. "You don't have to hide it, son. I saw the way you looked at her yesterday." Daniel sighed. "Dad, please don't start." "I won't interfere," Mr. Cole said. "But if you truly want to know her, meet her in her world, not yours." Daniel nodded thoughtfully. That night, he couldn't sleep, and the next morning, he made up his mind. At sunrise, Daniel dressed simply a plain shirt, old jeans, and sneakers. He left his car on the main road and walked through the narrow streets of Ajegunle. Children played barefoot. Women sold fruits and puff-puff. The smell of fried fish filled the air. It was loud, messy, alive, but honest. When he reached Grace's street, he saw her sitting outside, sewing under a small umbrella. Her hands moved fast, her lips humming softly to herself. Daniel smiled without meaning to. Then he stepped forward. "Good morning, Taylor," he said playfully. Grace looked up, startled. Her eyes widened. "Daniel, what are you doing here?" "I was nearby," he lied quickly, smiling. "I thought I should check on you." Grace shook her head in disbelief. "In Ajegunle? You were nearby?" He chuckled. "All right, maybe I came just to see you." She tried not to smile, but she failed. "You'll get dust all over your shoes." "I don't mind," he said. "Besides, it's good dust." They both laughed. Then Daniel sat beside her under the umbrella, watching as she sewed. "Do you do this every day?" he asked. "Yes," Grace said. "People bring torn clothes. I fix them. If I sew 2 or 3 pieces, we can eat that day." Daniel watched her quietly. Her world was small, yet full of dignity. "You work so hard," he said softly. "You make it look easy." Grace smiled faintly. "It's not easy, but when you have people you love, you find a way." Her words touched him deeply. He thought about his life, the money, the mansion, the endless meetings, and how empty it sometimes felt. When a light drizzle began to fall, Grace quickly covered her sewing machine with a cloth. Daniel looked up at the sky. "There's a woman selling roasted corn down the road," he said suddenly. "Can I buy you one?" Grace laughed. "You? Buying corn on the street?" He grinned. "Why not? It might be the best corn I've ever tasted." A few minutes later, they sat side by side on a low wooden bench, sharing roasted corn and laughing, while people around them stared curiously. A rich man and a poor girl, yet they looked at peace. From that day, Daniel kept coming back, sometimes in the morning, before work. sometimes at sunset, when the sky turned gold. He always dressed simply and came alone, without guards or cars. At first, Grace thought he was just being polite, but when he kept returning, bringing snacks for her brothers, small gifts for her work, and stories that made her laugh, she began to realize something deeper was growing. One evening, as she sat sewing, she heard his familiar voice again. "Good evening, Taylor," he said, smiling. Grace laughed. "Good evening, city man. You're back again." Daniel grinned. "Maybe I came for more roasted corn." "You've eaten all the corn in Ajigunle," she teased. "People now call you the rich man who eats corn." Daniel burst into laughter, and even the neighbors smiled. They sat together as the evening breeze moved through the narrow street. Grace's brothers played nearby, while Daniel helped her thread the needle. His fingers brushed hers for a moment, just a moment, but it made her heart skip. "You're not very good at sewing," she said, smiling shyly. "I'm learning," he replied softly. "Maybe you can teach me slowly." Grace looked at him, surprised by the warmth in his voice. Their eyes met, and for a brief second, the noisy street went quiet. He spoke again, his tone gentle. "Grace, do you ever wish life was different?" She thought for a while before answering. "Sometimes, but then I remember, if I had everything, maybe I wouldn't have learned to be strong." Daniel nodded slowly. "You're wiser than most people I know." "You mean richer people?" she teased. He smiled. "Maybe both." They laughed together. But when their laughter faded, something else lingered in the air, a feeling neither wanted to name yet. "Grace," he said softly, "I don't know what it is about you. You make me forget everything else." Her heart fluttered. "And you make me forget the hard parts of life, even if it's just for a while." Their eyes locked again, two different worlds quietly learning to breathe together. When it grew dark, Daniel stood up slowly. "I should go," he said, "but I'll come again soon." Grace smiled. "I'll pretend to believe you," he chuckled. "Then you'll see I'm a man who keeps his word." He began to walk away, then turned back and said, "Grace? Yes? I like it here because you're here." Before she could reply, he disappeared into the night. Grace stood there for a long time, her heart racing. The sound of his laughter echoed softly in her mind, and she smiled to herself. That night, sleep didn't come easily. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw him sitting beside her under the umbrella, laughing like a boy, not a rich man, not a stranger, but someone who truly saw her. And across the city, in his quiet mansion, Daniel sat by his window, looking at the moon. He whispered her name softly to the night. Grace. News travels fast in Lagos. When word spread that Daniel Cole, the billionaire's son, was marrying a poor tailor from Ajigunle, the city buzzed like a restless hive. Headlines flashed on phones and TV screens. Billionaire's son to wed slum girl. Engrossed 2, from the gutter to the mansion, who is Grace? Love or strategy? The tailor who stole the city's heart. People gossiped everywhere, in salons, on buses, in offices. Some laughed, some pitied, some were jealous. But inside the Cole mansion, none of that noise mattered. Daniel didn't check social media. Grace didn't read the papers, and Mr. Cole only smiled quietly whenever he saw the headlines. "Let them talk," he said. "When truth speaks, lies become silent." The wedding day came with soft sunlight and the scent of rain in the air. The church was filled with laughter, music, and flowers that glowed like gold under the morning light. Grace stood in front of the mirror in her simple white gown. Her hands trembled slightly, not out of fear, but disbelief. She could hardly recognize herself, not because of the dress, but because of the peace in her eyes. Mr. Cole entered, smiling proudly. "You remind me of your mother, my dear," he said. "The same courage, the same heart." Grace smiled through her tears. "Thank you, sir, for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself." He took her arm gently. "Come, my daughter. Let's walk toward your new beginning." At the altar, Daniel stood waiting. His eyes followed her every step as she walked down the aisle. When she finally reached him, his breath caught. She wasn't the girl from the roadside anymore. She was the woman who had changed his world, the one who had taught him that kindness still existed. Daniel took her hands and smiled. "I don't care what the world calls you," he whispered. "You'll always be the girl who stopped when everyone else walked away." Wings. Grace smiled, tears in her eyes. "And you'll always be the man who saw me when I thought I was invisible." The priest smiled gently. "Then it seems love has already done its work." They exchanged vows, their voices steady but full of emotion. And as they said "I do," sunlight broke through the clouds, bathing the room in gold. Mr. Cole watched them, his eyes misty but full of peace. His heart whispered, "Thank you, God." She found him. When they stepped outside, the air was filled with cheers, music, and the flash of cameras. Reporters shouted questions. Microphones waved. Headlines waited to be written, but Daniel just held Grace's hand tightly. "Let them write what they want," he said softly. "Our story began by the roadside, and that's where love found us first." Grace leaned her head on his shoulder. "And that's where love will always lead us home." As their car drove away, flower petals fell from above, floating like blessings in the wind. Mr. Cole watched them go, smiling proudly. "They mocked her for where she came from," he said to his aide quietly. "But one day, they'll tell their daughters to be just like her. And so, the city that once whispered their names in doubt would later speak them with awe. Because sometimes destiny doesn't knock at the door, it waits quietly by the roadside, hoping for one kind heart to stop." The end. Did you enjoy this story? Kindly let us know where you are watching from. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Thank you so much for watching.